Good morning, Internet. We're moving on from what we determined last time was very important to any role playing game, whether it was virtual or tabletop, which is using your imagination. That's a necessity, period, in the discussion. Um, all the aids are cool, physical or virtual, but they're not a necessity. So we're talking like the bare essentials here. Imagination, number one ingredient to baking our cake here of role playing games. The number two ingredient is communication, clear and understandable communication. So the question that was kind of being raised was, why is everybody not talking at once? Why aren't they just jumping over each other and blurting out what they're thinking, just stating what their character is doing right over the top of another person talking? That is an incredibly destructive communication habit. It's a bad habit to do that, to talk over other people. I know I can do it. I think most people have done it at some point in their life. I've been guilty of it. So what we're going to look at is why you take turns. You take turns, and taking turns is a bit more rigid in a virtual game, I think, than on the more in-person game. So you're going to see a lot less of the taking turn. I mean, they're going to take turns, but you're going to see a lot more organic cross-talking happening at a table that's being filmed or at your kitchen table in real time. Than you will in a virtual game that is either done with the Brady Bunch boxes. This is a story of some players who decided to play D&D, okay? Or the map with the disembodied voices. Why? Why aren't they just talking over each other? Just interjecting constantly into the conversation? Because, in real life, they would do that. Yes and no. Okay. So let's look at it. It's a bad communication habit. It's bad communication in the discussion to do that anyway. But it causes problems. Now, the obvious problems that should be kind of obvious, but maybe it's not, right off the get-go, is when everybody's talking at once and it's being broadcasted. This is why they don't do it in radio shows. You can't hear anything, and we all have our little headphones on or earbuds in, and all you're going to hear is rabble, 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 pretty much. And you'll hear a few words, and it's all garbled, and it's going to be very hard to figure out what's going on and who's saying what. It just gets messed up. Now, if you're playing virtual tabletop games, you will know that. You will know that if you haven't been playing them with multiple people. You won't know that. So if you're only playing like the DM and one player, there's only two people that are going to interact back and forth quite naturally and quite organically. Once you start adding other people, though, into the same channel, broadcasting all on the same audio channel, you have a problem. You don't have to play a virtual game to know this. You just have to use a CB, dedicated two-way radio channel of any kind, whether it's a handheld walkie-talkie or more of the CB style, or you push a little button. If everybody starts pushing buttons and talking when they want, nobody hears anything. And you have incomplete sentences that do come through. There's lots of buzzing and beeping, and everything's a garbled mess. And that is why radio etiquette is massive when you have a whole lot of people on the same channel, like at my work. It's why understanding and respecting other people's radio etiquette when, say, I've left my area, and it turns out our company's channel is the same as the local police department over here. I therefore will not be using my radio because then I would be cutting into the 911 calls. I am, however, listening to the sheriff needing backup. Totally, this happened to me. And he's being shot at in a warehouse. I'm not gonna get on there and talk about any problems I'm having doing my job. I'm going to get my cell phone out and call my dispatch directly, because his problems are important. Mine, way less. Okay? So it is understanding etiquette and what it does for you and the game and communication and then imagination. So, you can't hear anything. The DM's talking, all the players are talking, you can't hear anything. In real life, you can have a more boisterous table, in my opinion, than you can in a virtual setting because of the challenges technology brings in this area. So, yep, people are going to sit there. They're going to do this. They're going to have pencils. They're going to be intently just kind of staring. Well, what they're actually doing is listening. And if it is appropriate for them to interject, you will see them interject. And when there's a lot of action going on and there's going to be a bigger need to interject, you will see more interjection happening, but it's done at a much lower key than what you normally see in real in-person play, because that's how we keep the game moving. That's how we keep communication good. So why is communication important besides, the obvious things? It helps build group imagination, which we'll talk about probably in the next video I film. But also, even in real life, if everybody's talking over each other, you usually have one person who does it constantly, and everyone starts getting pissed off. I'm just going to say it. They get pissed off. They get frustrated. They get angry. They feel like they're not getting to direct their character. They're not getting to do anything because this other person is taking the limelight, so to speak, and bossing them all around. And they might even be trying to run roughshod over the DM. There is such a thing as a single player railroading the game. Not the DM, not the other players. There is literally such a thing as one person being so obnoxious that they railroad the whole game. So what you're going to observe when you see me, because I can be intense, believe me, role play, and other people role play who have manners and understand the communication issue for virtual land, is you're going to see us attempting to self-regulate. You're going to see us waiting for the cue from a pause or whatever before we start talking. You're also going to see us back off, like, oops, I accidentally stepped on somebody. And we're going to give some kind of cue that the other person keep talking or whatever. Otherwise, we have to ask for 10-9 all the time. And 10-9 breaks immersion. And if you don't know what 10-9 means, it means repeat the information. Repeat the information. DM, say what we just cut you off from saying. Because now we don't know what's going on. And if the DM gets done with that, the DM's just going to let you cut them off and then let you die. Because you have no manners. Okay? Tables can disintegrate over this stuff. Both virtual tables and real life tables. So that's the other reason why you need to take turns. Turns are good. That's why they've been used throughout all of role-play gaming existence. Organic interjection is good, but you got to get a feel for it in the virtual land, and people would know that if they're played with more than just themselves and one other person. And so my advice is learn how to take turns, learn how to interject appropriately when it's expected, and always have good manners and be patient with each other. That is how you keep the immersion going, and that is how you keep the role play going. It takes a little work, but you'll get a feel for it, and that is what you have to do. But trust me, nobody's sitting there doing nothing when they're listening. They are listening and taking information